When your child asks you about other children with disabilities, how do you answer their questions? And do you know how to answer their questions?
Well, that's kind of a big question. Obviously, I always communicate very openly and honestly in age-appropriate terms. But it can be tricky, particularly like, you said when you yourself are feeling not so sure how to answer, you're not so sure of that, then you can feel a lot of pressure around that. Because we have people in our family with disabilities, it is very like open, accepted, loving. Like my kids would never think to stare, and they would never think what's wrong with that person. They don't see it as something wrong,
Right.
Like, usually the problem is the adults. It's the adults that do the staring at the mall and not the children, right?
This is a fear for a lot of moms. I've talked to a lot of moms, and I want to thank our awesome viewers, because we did put the question out there to you on Facebook, and we got phenomenal response.
Right.
The most helpful response, because this is such tricky territory for a parent. Because it's critical that what we explain to our kids is what they're going out into the world with.
Right. And I know for my kids, the conversation will be about different kinds of abilities, disabilities, however you want to put it. Mostly the conversations have been when there's something going on with a child where we often use the term something's up. Like my kid will say, Mom, little Joey keeps doing this and it's so annoying, and I'm like, hold on for a second though. We don't know what it is, but there's something up with Joey. So he's dealing with some issues. We don't know what the diagnosis is. So you got to remember, when there's something up with a kid, we have to be particularly patient. We have to make extra efforts to be friends with them. We have to make sure they're on your birthday invite list. We have to do all the things to be as inclusive as we can. And even if little Joey's behavior is a little bit frustrating, remember, Joey's dealing with something. And that is a term we always use. Something's up.
That's a really good way to put it. One great mom on our page wrote that they are differently abled. And I really like that, because I think for me, I was searching for the term to use, and I don't like the term disabled because it's disadvantage. Right. It's a disadvantage. Right. And if I want Maddie to look at kids as we all have something different and wonderful about us, we all have something different and we should celebrate those things. Let's be realistic though, they are going to see it as a difference. But I think I'd like to communicate that to her. Definitely. Hey, different doesn't mean bad. Right. So I really like differently abled, and I do like to stay away from the word disabled because I don't want her to feel like it's a pitying.
I like differently abled. Language is so important, and something that I always do with my children and in general is I always speak in person first language. So for instance, I have a child with autism. I would never say that I have an autistic child, because that is saying that his autism defines him. I have a child who's really good at hockey. He's a great big brother. He's a lifeguard. He has autism. It's just one of the many things about him. So whenever you're talking about somebody, the person comes first. It's a person with autism. It's a person with diabetes, not a diabetic. Or it's not, it's like you don't say somebody's cancerous, it's a person with cancer.
That's a good
point. Why with.
And in fairness to moms who aren't exposed to it every day, it's understanding what that language is. How parents whose kids might be living with Downs or autism, how do they want that communicated about their children? But it's awkward, because how do you ask that parent?
You ask them. That's exactly what you do. I'm telling you. This is what.
This is.
You say, you know what? The best thing, I think, if you have a little guy, say with autism in your kid's class, go up to mom and say, look, I understand that Joey has autism. What can we do to support it? Or do you have any good resources I could read? Are there any good books I could read to my child so that they're a better friend to Joey at school? Are there any social things he likes? If I had a play date, would he be interested in coming over? Would you be more comfortable joining as well? Ask. I'll tell you, if
those are great tips.
Yeah, that. You're better off to ask the question, because you know what, that mom, she's like, somebody's taking interest in my child. And whether your child has a disability or not, everybody loves to be asked questions about your child, and that's somebody showing interest in them, and particularly for moms who might not be getting that a lot.
I want to go back to We Day this year, in 2017, and a big shout out to Erica M for inviting Maddie and I to We Family. So that night we sat in the box, and we got to see Spencer West on stage. Oh my God, that guy is something else. The conversation Maddie and I had for days after that. I mean, she had a lot of questions, and there were questions I couldn't answer, and I still can't answer. But I told her that, I can't answer those questions, but we have to do some research and find out what those answers are. And so she's fascinated because he's climbed Kilimanjaro.
I know, he's remarkable.
And it's such a great lesson because, I talked to her when she is being lazy, with her shirt on, and she doesn't want to do this, so she can't do this. And I'm like, you can actually.
Yeah.
There is no such thing as can't. That's a word you created.
Yeah.
Look at Spencer West. And she's like, oh, yeah,
Right,
that
yeah.
guy. Now, it leads me to an awkward situation, which I think some other moms I spoke to have sort of felt this.
Okay.
So Maddie and I went out for lunch one day to a restaurant we always go to. And that particular day, one of the wait staff, I've met him before. He's missing his arm from the elbow down. And it was a really busy day. It's a small restaurant, and he delivered our food on his arm, which, this guy, nothing stops him. But of course, she was fascinated. And he's a younger guy, and she said, I want to ask him what happened. I guess my concern was, you know what? He's missing a limb.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened, whether it's amputation or born that way.
And it's kind of none of our business, too.
It's kind of none of our business.
Say, you know what, sweetie, that might be personal to him, but you can say, you are so amazing. You're such an amazing waiter. You're so, like might be something else. Because wanting to know the reason, that doesn't matter because that's not the person. Right?
So I think, though, that there's a bit of a contradiction here because some people were saying just ask. People like to be asked.
Right.
But I'm thinking maybe some people don't always want to be the example, right?
Maybe it's fair.
They just want to be seen as a normal.
And if they've already asked, you could get asked 40 times a day.
Exactly.
I might as well just wear a t-shirt.
Yeah, exactly. So there's a difference. And I also feel like her asking him makes him not normal when I just said he is normal.
Right.
We all have something different about us, right? So
the other thing I often go to with my kids, and maybe in that situation, I don't know what I would have done there. Okay. I don't think I would have allowed them to ask. But we could have talked about why it might not be appropriate to ask, because if he gets asked all the time, it might be, the conversation there. But I do often go back to with my kids is we don't talk about appearances.
Yeah.
So sometimes if they're talking or they're asking about, even this can come up if there's a case where they meet somebody who's living with obesity or something like that. I'll be like, you know what, we don't talk about how people look. We talk about how people's hearts and how they act and how much respect they show. So we don't really need to have that conversation.
I 90% agree with that.
Yeah.
I just don't want to shut down that 10% where it is a curiosity.
Sure.
I don't want her to ignore it because I want her to be educated about it. Sure. And I like what you've said about being inclusionary and being curious. But I do think you're right. It's tempering the conversation to be inclusive, right? Not saying, oh, don't ask. And almost to me, I don't want to make it go away. I want you to understand that he's just like you. It's just that's his difference, right?
Yeah.
It's a tricky one.
It sure is.
This is a tough one to balance. So I would love to know further feedback on this. We already got some really great feedback. Awesome. Check out our Facebook page and see the conversation. You're going to get some amazing tips from moms who know exactly how to handle the situation, like you. It's great tips for you to pass on to your children because if you shy away from it or act fearful of it, that's the message you're passing on to your kid.
And there's nothing to be scared of. Having people with disabilities in my life has made it so much richer.
Yeah. Yeah. Maddie's got 2 buddies who have autism and she's grown up with that. And it doesn't faze her.
Right, exactly.
Some things will be like, why is that? But anyway, those are our differences,
there
right? We all have them.
So leave a comment, let us know what you want us to talk about, and be sure to subscribe. And we will see you next time.
Yes.
Cheers.
Cheers.